Who needs space marines? When you could have a sister of battle at your side.
Sisters, fight by my side! Now, my sisters, in the Emperor's name!
Greetings, mortals. It is I, Remortis, and today I'm bringing you my second build guide for Warhammer 40k Rogue Trader, with the Marksman archetype. If you would like to play as one for your main character, or more likely, you want to make Argenta the most badass soldier possible. I'll be going over both build variations in this guide, since they ultimately follow the same route. The main difference is in character creation, as we can change our origin and homeworld options, which really change things up, and we will go over that, as well as character creation and general strategies for the marksman, as well as a level up guide. This will just be the beginning portion of the guide to get you on the right path, a solid foundation. And then we'll do a more advanced guide later. But without further ado, let's get straight into it, shall we? So what is the role of the marksman? Well, their main purpose is to deal with the hordes of enemies in the game, while still doing considerable damage against bosses, and other strong enemies that the game throws at you too. They can get access to many skills that lets them take multiple attacks in a round, and can make some amazing combinations with the rest of your team, especially with your officer. Now, one of our first companions, Argenta, is already a marksman, and if you use her right, she will blast her way through the disbelievers and heretics. Her origin is the Minnesota Priest, which gives her the War Hymn ability, that increases your current momentum by 3 plus any enemy within 5 cells, or any enemy hit by her that turn, which combos really well with burst or area attacks. This is a pretty solid ability to help you chain ultimate abilities easier in the early and mid game, but this origin isn't the most optimal for marksmen. And what if you wanted your rogue trader to join in on the Daka Daka too? Or perhaps you wanted to go with a different conviction playthrough, as Argenta is heavily Imperial aligned. Well, you could make a very powerful marksman yourself. Although if you plan on just using Argenta, go ahead and skip on to the leveling guide. Otherwise, if you wanted to make a powerful marksman, how do we go about it? The primary stats for the marksman are ballistic skill, perception, and agility, and to some extent strength. Ballistic skill and perception will help your attacks land, while agility will improve your initiative and a few of your other abilities. With that in mind, as we pick our homeworld and origin options, hands down, without a doubt, the Fortress world is the best homeworld for the marksman, with their main feature, Never Stop Shooting. Whenever a Fortress world character slays an enemy, they gain 10 stacks of Never Stop Shooting, and at the beginning of your next turn, there's a percentage chance equal to those stacks, that the first attack in a round will cost 0 AP, and won't count towards your attack limit. And as a marksman, we'll be getting a ton of easy kills with all the chaff in the game, especially if you're using a burst weapon. You won't notice the difference between the Fortress world marksman and Argenta in the early game until about the mid to late game when it really becomes more apparent. But now that we have our homeworld, what origin do we pick? Who makes the best marksman? Well, there are a couple options here. The most obvious choice is the Astra Militarum commander. Their ability, Regimental Tactics, can let you deal some devastating damage with some smart placement of your other characters, as you will deal additional damage to enemies that are next to your commander or their allies, and your allies won't receive any friendly fire until the end of turn. The damage bonus is a percentage equal to 20 plus 2 times your perception bonus, which is your perception divided by 10. That goes for any bonuses, by the way. So if you have a perception of 50 perception, that means you have a 5 perception bonus. So back to the math, that'll let you deal an extra 30% damage during this buff. This ability alone is really good and lets you deal some considerable damage to bosses if you have Abelard planted right next to them, which can be enhanced further with some of your other talent choices, such as Shoulder to Shoulder, which lets you deal more damage with the more allies that are right next to each other. Although, to be honest, you'll rarely have this chance since cover's pretty scarce throughout the battlefield, and you won't be able to just line up your guys just like that. Random shots will increase your weapon's firing rate significantly the more you attack, which can combo into some more crazy stuff later. And Friend in Need can be useful to help you get your momentum generation, but I don't think it's completely necessary. The Crime Lord makes a really good solid marksman too. Surefire Plan is a really sweet ability, which is a consumable buff that generates at the start of combat. When you activate this ability, you will consume a stack of the buff and enhance your next action, whether it's an attack, movement, or a non-damaging ability, and you can use this multiple times per turn. For the purpose of this build, we're mostly interested in the attack portion, which will be a percentage increase equal to 10 plus 2 times your perception bonus. So with that perception bonus of 50 from earlier, we'll be increasing our damage by a flat 20% with this buff, and without needing to have the positioning requirements from the other teammates. The only thing you need is a stack of Surefire Plan, and when timed right can unleash some devastating burst attacks. I'll go more in depth on the Crime Lord in my next video, as we'll be doing a Crime Lord operative sniper build. Which moves us on to our third option for Marksman, and which might seem unusual at first, but oh boy, the amount of devastation you can incur. The Psyker. Yep, that's right. Marksman is probably the best archetype for the Psyker, being able to get off many attacks since Psyker powers count as weapon attacks. Although be careful with this, as using too many Psyker powers in quick succession might come with a fun surprise. And I'll be doing a full video on the Psyker later, let alone the Marksman Psyker. But I just wanted to mention that here as an option for your Marksman. The Pyromancer in particular does really well here. But for the sake of this video, we'll just settle for the Astra Militarum Commander. And as for our starting stats, let's keep it straightforward here with 10 points into Ballistic Skill, Agility, and Perception. Although you could opt into Strength here if you intend to wear heavy armor or use heavy weapons. No, it is not necessary. Now onto the leveling build, where I'll go over each talent and ability when we select them. As for a quick recap, this is the level up screen. The first few levels will be straightforward, as there won't be many options to choose from. Each of these arrows are stat increases, the pointer fingers are activated abilities, and these power-up icons are where you pick your talents and general talents. And there's a huge list of them, and lots of different types. And moving forward, this build is interchangeable with Argenta at this point, and I'll mention the key differences between the Astra Militarum and Argenta afterwards. Some major bonuses for Argenta that she has going for her versus your Rogue Trader is that she starts off with several free proficiencies for bolters, flame weapons, and power armor, which is pretty sweet and frees her up to pick up some other talents. So as mentioned before, our primary role as a marksman is to eliminate all the chaff or cannon fodder in each fight. We'll have plenty of ways to deal with the hordes of enemies, and also get some bonuses for doing so. And starting off at level 1 as a marksman, we have an awesome feature called Run and Gun, which grants us additional movement points based on our agility, and lets you make an extra attack that costs -1 AP less than normal. But doing so will make you winded until the end of next turn, which is a debuff that gives you -10 to ballistic skill, and you can't use Run and Gun again until it wears off. So we'll be able to use this every other turn. And normally you consume all of your movement when you make an attack. So the idea here is that you fire a shot, and then use Run and Gun to reposition and shoot again. Anyways, at level 2, we'll advance into Awareness or Demolition. At level 3, we get our other core feature in Revel and Slaughter, which is a buff that lasts the entirety of combat when you cast it, but in order to do that, we need to slay 3 enemies.
I'll do it.
It'll remove the winded condition from Run and Gun, and provide us with a static +10 ballistic skill and extra critical strike and damage, based on your agility. If you cast this on your second round after using Run and Gun the one prior, you can potentially cast Run again immediately after casting Revel and Slaughter. At level 4, we get our ultimate, Military Excellence, which lets us get off some extra attacks that don't cost AP, equal to your weapon's firing rate. So for example, your standard bolter usually has a firing rate of 3 or 4, so this ultimate will grant you that many attacks. You can combo this with the Officer's ultimate for some incredible displays. At level 5, we actually get 2 talents to pick from here, since we get one for level 4 as well. But you hit level 5 just after killing the first boss in the prologue. Anyways, we'll be picking up the Rapid Reload feature, which reduces the cost of reloading by 2, normally reloading costs 3. And with this talent, our first one is always free. This is a really great talent to have. I also like to pick up Fired Up, which lets us get a stacking buff that increases our crit damage anytime we deal damage. And will also increase our ballistic skill. At level 6, we grab the ability called Rapid Fire, which causes our next burst attack to shoot double its normal amount, but at a 25% damage reduction.
Faith without deeds is worthless. As the Emperor commands, I act.
And we'll increase our agility here. At level 7, we'll increase our ballistic skill, and for our general feats, I'll opt to grab a priest feat in Flensing Faith, which lets us deal extra damage based on willpower, while using melee, flame, or melt attacks. Or you can grab Bolter Weapon Expert, which is a flat 10% extra armor pen while using bolters. And we can just pick up Flensing Faith later. Mind you, this portion right here is for Argenta. We'll go over some other stuff you can pick for your Astra Militarum at the end of this. At level 8, we'll pick up the Point Blank talent, which causes our area of attack, such as our burst, to have armor penetration and negate damage deflection if we're within 3 cells, which happens quite often. And it can also help you in boss encounters if you position correctly. At level 9, we get an upgrade to our ultimate. Lots of great choices here, but I enjoy the first one the most, as you'll be able to get extra movement points in between shots and be able to reposition. Level 10, we'll pick up Bullet Hell, which will remove the 25% damage reduction while using rapid fire, and will also increase our agility here. At level 11, we get another ability choice. I'm a big fan of Concentrated Fire, but we could go with Dash here, which lets us consume the rest of our movement points to dash to a certain location. This will allow us to move through allies and enemies, and you won't provoke attacks of opportunity. This is an amazing get-out-of-jail-free card so that we can move away and keep blasting, even if enemies are next to you. If our Demolition is capped, we'll be increasing our awareness or Medikai instead. Level 12, we can pick up Flame Weapon Expert, which lets us use flame weapons for 1 AP less, or we can grab another pre-skill, such as Litany of Purification, which causes all enemies within an area of the war hymn to gain 1 stack of the Disturbed effect, which is a stacking debuff of -10 to any willpower or fellowship tests. And if they are adjacent to the priest, they get 2 stacks of that instead. Also, any demons in the area will suffer damage equal to the momentum restored by the priest while using this ability. Level 13, we'll pick up Flensing Faith, or Bolt Weapon Expert, depending on what we took at level 7. We'll also grab the Grenadier talent here as well, which allows us to cast a grenade at the beginning of our turn that won't count against our attacks, and will let us do it at a reduced cost as well, I believe. At level 14, we'll pick up Litany or Flame Weapon Expert, whichever we didn't choose at level 12. And at level 15, we'll grab the upgrade to our ultimate that increases our firing rate. This will allow us to do extra attacks during this ultimate. Now, if you are playing as the Astra Militarum commander, you can ignore the Bolter, Flamer, and Minnesota Priest talents. And instead of increasing agility, we'll be increasing our strength at least until we get to 45. That is, if you want to use heavy armor. If you don't, just get your strength up to 35. As we'll be grabbing the heavy weapon proficiency, which reduces the strength cost to using heavy weapons by 25. The heavy bolter you can get at Act 1 requires a strength of 60, for example. We'll also pick up the Hurt Like Hell and Breaking Point feats, both of which enhance our usage of heavy weapons. Although keep in mind that heavy weapons do have a higher AP cost to use, so you'll be swapping between a burst weapon and your heavy weapon, depending on what buffs you have at the moment. We'll also want to pick up Familiar Kickback and Never Stop Believing, which are Fortress World talents that helps us maintain and generate Never Stop shooting stacks easier. And no matter which character you're making the Marksman for, whether it be for your Rogue Trader or Argenta, the next logical step after completing the Marksman is to move to the Arch Militant, which has a slew of abilities that can let you squeeze out many free attacks. And their ultimate causes the first attack each turn to not cost any AP. This is also included on extra turns granted by other classes and abilities, which makes your killing machine even killier. The other 2 Archetype options are good choices, but we won't have the desired stats to really bring out the most of those classes, so the Arch Militant it is. As for the types of items to look out for, Argenta tends to love bolters and flamers. Meanwhile, the Fortress Astra Militarum variant of this build will absolutely love heavy weapons, such as the heavy bolter off the last boss in Act 1. And honestly, who needs a Space Marine when you're the one holding the heavy bolter? Anyhow, I'll be rolling some in-game footage of the 2 variants in action. Go forth and blast all who stand in your way. For the Emperor!
You should feel honored to witness this. Never stood a chance. I won't compromise my principles. As good as done.
I will bathe this battlefield in righteous fury. I'll do it. I am his will made manifest. Rejoice in battle. This is unacceptable. Faith without fire chosen. As the Emperor commands, that is a prayer. I'll do it. Eradicated. As the Emperor commands, none can escape the Emperor's judgment. God Emperor, move through me. I will see the fire in my heart.
And well, that's the guide. I hope you enjoyed the guide, and more importantly, I hope it helped you. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe for more guides like these. And I'll be going over the advanced portions of each of these builds at a later time, so keep an eye out for those when they come out. The next Foundation build I'll be doing is for a Crime Lord Operator Sniper, so keep an eye out for that one. Anyhow, thank you so much for watching. Farewell for now.